Hello and welcome back to Social Club. This time what I want to talk to the gents about, come on.
And Louis.
And Ped, is really, it's about access to players. I mean, I've recently, I don't know if you know this, but I've recently been over to follow Liverpool in the US tour and stuff.
Have you really?
I have.
I have no idea.
That's why I'm just slightly pasty white and not full on pasty white like
You've been
normal.
painting the house for the weekend.
So no, one of the things that I wanted to talk about is access to Premier League players. I mean, when I was over there was everybody I met had got a selfie with Klopp, basically, and a selfie with all these players, and yet everybody in Liverpool struggles massively. And I wanted to know why. Is it the players that are putting these walls up, or do you think it's possibly the clubs that are putting these walls up to divide the fans and the players?
I think it's the club, but it also derives from how the club operates. So I'd probably argue, I mean, there's no kind of scientific evidence for this, but I'd probably argue that the more commercial revenue or income into a club, the less of a chance you are with interacting with players and interacting with managers and things like that. And also, there's a horrible trend that I've been noticing at the minute, that these clubs that have been putting these walls up, or metaphorical walls up, to fans, their social media accounts are very, very tip-top. So you look at Man City, their YouTube channel's superb, Spurs are pretty similar, Liverpool are pretty similar. So it feels like to me that they're trying to circumvent fans interacting face-to-face with players, managers, and they're replacing that with like YouTube channels, replacing that with Twitter feeds, they're replacing that with Facebook feeds. And that's a bit disgusting to me because, like you said off camera, like in the 80s, players just used to have pints in the pub and like you'd bump into a player in there having a pint and be like, "Hi mate, you're right."
They're almost putting a price on everything now, aren't they?
Basically, what I would say is that fans at home, they've got your money. You don't care. You go through the turnstiles, they're not bothered. Those tours to America, certainly Liverpool do, Chelsea have done, Man United do. From the minute they get on the plane to the minute they get back, it's all
marketing exercise.
It's market and PR
Promotion.
the whole time. You know, Liverpool were doing stuff with the mascot and going into football academies and doing things and then going to like the baseball games and there's pictures everywhere with the players. And every time you see a player with the fans doing the meet and greets, the fans are so overjoyed to see them that nothing else matters. So it's all just happy, smiley faces, merchandise, people with bags and bags of gear. They're living the dream, and that's what they want to sell. They don't want to sell 30-something-year-old men in the pub, talking about the match and being a bit doom and gloom or the realistic side. They just want to sell the advertise.
Well, it's the idea as well that you can be a part of this footballing family, which, quite frankly, doesn't exist on home soil in the same way as it does from those pictures in the tours, does it?
Well, we don't get sun for a start.
Well, I think sort of when you do go over to the US and stuff, obviously because they don't go to the games, they're not on home soil. That's their way in. That the clubs do that on purpose while they're abroad, in my opinion, to bring people in. Like you were saying, you go in the pub, they'd be sat there. It doesn't happen like that anymore because I think it starts lower down, not just from the top of the club. I think it starts at the very bottom now, where players used to, or young players used to clean the boots of the first team and used to do the washing and all that sort of stuff, and then the players would go, okay, here's £5 for doing it and all that sort of stuff. It doesn't work like that anymore because from a young age, players are put in a bubble by their parents, by their agents, by the club, by the money that's being generated, by potential sponsorship deals and all this sort of stuff. And it's so cluttered now that the most important thing almost doesn't matter as much as it should. So the football on the pitch and how you would, as a kid, sit in the stands, I want to play on that pitch one day. Gerrard, an example, Gerrard, Terry, probably be two prime examples of players which probably had the last Hibbert of the last sort of connections with the fans at their clubs and stuff. And then as soon as they go, you're going to have the players at Chelsea like maybe Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Ola Aina I don't know. They might not connect with the fans as much as they could. But that's because of the bubble that they've been placed in from day one.
I think it's very key that we understand that, from my point of view at least, I'm not sure if anyone else agrees, I think it's very club-based. So I'd say, like Peds, you were saying off camera, that there's a parade where all the Everton players come, you have a picture behind the gates where the car parks is, all that. It's the exact same at Villa as well. You wait about half an hour, the players come out after the game, and I know for a fact Villa encourage them to have pictures and stuff like that. So it's not all as clear cut, but it's still a worrying trend that's happening. And I think that when we're in a footballing economy with £20 billion, and when we're getting 17, 18-year-olds signing sponsorships to Nike and Adidas, and it's and even from then on, it's such a different level playing field. 18-year-olds are spending thousands and thousands of pounds to go on holiday for a week in Ibiza, and they're at a different kind of echelon to the normal people in society, the fans.
The flip side as well is what you got to remember as well is that when the season's on, there's always something to moan about. When it's pre-season, everyone is like, it's all just still a laugh, isn't it? You go on these tours and it's all fun. And you're playing against teams. It doesn't matter what the result is, and you can all relax and everyone's happy. So, and you can introduce fans into that in a much easier way than when it's a Premier League game and it's November and it's against someone, there's something on it, or it's just a typical shite Premier League game that they do actually occur. Forget what Sky say, but they do actually happen.
They're normally the Saturday 12:30.
They actually do exist. So if you introduce them when it's summer and there's not riding, and also you've got all the players and they're all there and they're surrounded, and you can confine them into one area, and you get these fans who just want a picture and then they move on. Whereas when it's a season, you will get people, and I've seen it they'll be like, well, what happened today, lad? Or what's happening with this? Or is the manager actually a knobhead? Or and then you'll get. And then also the clubs are so scared. They're so scared of a question being asked that they can't control. And this is something we face every day in what we do with our channels is they don't want to give you access because they're terrified you're going to ask them a normal everyday question like, when are you going to sign this contract or what? Do you know what I mean? And that's clubs are terrified of losing control.
We had it whereby we were interviewing a really young Liverpool player in the mix zone over in the ICC. And you could see the press officer realise it was us, and she fucking bolted to be standing at his side to make sure that he hadn't said something that we can probably use to promote ourselves potentially, or we can promote the club in a bad light. What they fail to realise is that, I can talk for myself and Paul here, we're fans of the club.
Exactly.
And what they don't realise is that we want the club's best interest. We hold the club's best interests at heart. Yeah. We hold those values at heart. And then you're fucking spot on. They're terrified of what they think we might do with their name. But we love Liverpool, or you love Everton, or you love Chelsea. Why would you ever drag your club through the mud? Do you know what I mean?
But if you do drag your club through the mud, and I'll say now, I have done it on numerous occasions, you're doing it because you feel like it's for the best of the club. Do you know what I mean? If you like the whole thing we were talking about with Tony Hibbert thing before, if you feel like there is something rotten at your club, you have got a
sometimes you have to make the hard decisions.
You've got to do because you know what the models of your club are. So as I say, these things are very controlled, these tours, and you can just make sure that, as I say, not in controversial level we said, because the people there are so happy to be there, and normally they're probably on a list anyway, and supporters club, American supporters club, whatever. And if who was that person who just said they're out, basically. But people are just so happy to be there. I just don't think we'll ever get that.
What kind of started me talking about this is a former player of yours. Actually, I was listening to the Long Ball Street podcast. If you have listened, if you have or you haven't listened to it, it's obviously available on iTunes. It's pretty wicked. I was listening to the one that he did with Michael Dewberry.
That was good.
And he started talking about actually something you've just mentioned, Ped, where he started a chant after the game. I think it was when he was either at Chelsea or when he was at Leeds or something like that. And he was a bit of a local legend because he always did the lap of honour, or he always went over and said goodbye to the away fans or hello to the away fans and whatever. And he talked to other players in the locker room, was like, why don't you do it? And they're like, oh lad, if you win or you lose, there's going to be players there that just scream the fucking thing at you, and I can't be arsed dealing with that, like calling you a prick and all that type of stuff. So you kind of, when you humanise footballers, I can understand why they step back a little bit, but it's when, like, you go to Melwood, there's these big fences put up and security guards on the outside. That's not humanising a footballer, that's putting a fucking wall up.
What happened with you
now, isn't it, as well?
When you went, because you did the stuff with Lazar Markovic and stuff, and because obviously that must have been like the first sort of, well, that was probably massive for you, because sort of in terms of fan and sort of getting access, What was it like? Was it sort of, when you said the security guard stuff, was it like a whole security process? Was
Our name was on the list, thankfully. But I think I don't want to talk too much about Liverpool on this, but that was a big deal for us because we actually got access and we did something that we really wanted to do with them.
Exactly.
And that's something that the clubs had probably never considered before, getting the lads to run round and do a dizzy penalty. Because ultimately they're worth a lot of money and they probably shouldn't be getting fucking dizzy on our watch.
I've had this before as well, where you have football fans would like to see their heroes being embarrassed now. Humanised is the word you just said. Humanised now and again, doing stuff like that is perfect. And that's all it is, isn't it? It's just humanising them now and again and making them just seem like they're just like us. And whether that's just asking them a question like, what's the last film you went to see, or what's the last album? It opens up insights. It opens up insights that we don't necessarily have. So I think that in a broader range, I think the club should start waking up to this a little bit. Like, you know what I mean? But the problem is they get burned so many times, and they get burned by, real journalists. Never mind, fans. So
I think. Sorry, I was going to say a prime example of a player who has been humanised and sort of he preferred that humanisation. Adriano, sort of the 99 shot power legend.
Yeah.
Has 6.
Okay, have you heard about this story then?
he's in the Brazilian.
Yeah, so he's back. He's basically back.
Cutting air into you, something like that.
He's basically he had photographs of him with fucking massive guns and stuff like that back in the favelas, is it called, or something like that?
He sort of his ex-girlfriend. I mean, Flav put it perfectly on Talking Bulls on Bull Street. Check that out as well.
Jesus wept.
I know, right?
Killing it. I'm supposed to be advertising something in this video.
No, but like Adriano's ex-girlfriend said, like all the money, all the football, he had everything he could to be happy. He just preferred to basically not be wearing shoes, flying kites with kids, and just be in with real people.
To be fair, he
rather
like
than
he
in
just
the
like
bubble.
to eat.
That's true. That as well.
Well, now he's lost a load of weight. To be fair,
He's probably skint. That's why.
No, but I mean, he's been humanised, and sort of it just goes to show footballers are humans as well.
There's loads of examples of that. Go on, what were you going to say?
I was going to say that it's a prime case of football clubs wanting to control the narrative and the information coming out of the club. I mean, if you look at Man United, for example, in the valuation that the Glazers put on Man United, a big chunk of that valuation is just like, oh yeah, we value the brand at X amount of pounds. And that's what it comes down to.
It is.
That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. It's value, it's money, and it's controlling the narrative to show them in the best possible light. Because if a media officer doesn't do that, for example, then you've got someone above you who's saying, right, we can link what has happened on your watch, and we've lost money because of it.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to. That's what it boils down to.
There's probably too many, and this is across all clubs, too many middle managers who are scared. And it kind of goes back to the Hibbert thing of fucking up. And they're always they go safe option all the time. And, we live in a world where social media is rife. Everybody carries a phone. You could very easily clip up a player and screw them over. And what they don't realise, I think anyway, in this day and age is they would make much stronger bonds with the fans if they treated us like human beings because we would treat them like fucking idols because that's all we've looked up to. Anyway, if you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments section below. Don't forget to get your views across. Do we need to try and knock down these barriers between fans and football clubs to bring new life into the game, to continue on that evolution of what made it so good and such a good sport in the first instance?
It's the start of a new season, so that means you must be picking your fantasy football team for the year. Well, Bull Street have got their own league, and we want you guys to join, courtesy of Sky Fantasy Football. If you want to get involved, click the link below, pop in the code, and you can join the Bull Street League. And if you need a bit of inspiration, I'm going to be revealing my team on the Bull Street channel this Thursday. Saying that, all of those players become null and void. You can't choose them because, well, if you do, you're officially a cheat. Good luck.